Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Ethan Chernofsky, Vice President of Marketing at Placer.ai, which specializes in consumer movement data to discuss consumer trends and how well retailers perform for holiday 2021. And Ethan, it's great timing. Great to see you again, of course, as we are also butting up against earnings season. We'll start to hear some of that guidance from retailers as well. But let's talk about holiday. How did the extended holiday selling season impact retailers, and why was it critical to retailer strategy?
Yeah, I think it's maybe the most important story from what's happened in the last few months is this concept of the extended season and how successful it was for so many brands. So when you think about Target saw visits way down on Black Friday, significantly down on Super Saturday. Yet overall in November and December, visits were up compared to 2019. And that's because of this extended season. And what's so critical here is that we had a really uniquely difficult situation for many retailers when you think about concerns of labor shortages, supply chain, COVID. And what they did was effectively communicate the fact that there could be a win-win found for the consumer and the retailer if that shopping took place earlier. And visitors responded and came out to do that shopping earlier than they might have in the past. And this ability to create that win-win is unbelievably significant, and it can change a lot of the way retailers approach other major seasons or other challenges in the future.
I think the way that they marketed this holiday season was really interesting, how much more targeted it is, whether it's emails or texts. It's almost like they knew what you were thinking and what you were looking for. I don't recall marketing being that savvy as it was in 2021. And for many of the reasons that you mentioned, overall, would you say Black Friday was a success? Is it as key of a day as it may have been in the past?
So it's still a really significant day. So when you look at the data, visits on Black Friday still significantly surpass other equivalent days in the lead up, other major holidays. For some retailers, it's still clearly the most significant day in the calendar. With that said, when you compare Black Friday to what it had been traditionally, there's clearly a shift taking place to this more extended season. And the one area that's going to see a hit as a result is Black Friday. So does it mean that Black Friday is going to all of a sudden diminish and just become another day? Absolutely not. Most likely Black Friday is going to remain a really significant day within the retail calendar. Will it reach the levels that it had in years past? Most likely not. And we're going to see a more comprehensive view of the wider holiday season.
What sector performed the best?
So I think when you look at these large retailers, so whether it's Walmart, Target, Best Buy, I think they performed incredibly well because of that focus on the extended season, and a huge kudos to the way they marketed it, communicated it, and were able to find that win-win with customers. But there were other sectors that did very well. So off-price retail had a really strong performance. Home furnishings continued to outperform. So brands like Home Goods, At Home, all continuing to benefit from this wider trend that has lasted quite a while that says, how do we spruce up our homes now that our home is becoming so much more of the center of our wider lives?
Yep, I certainly help contribute to that bottom line. I hear you there. Ethan, overall, how would you rate the success of holiday 2021 for retailers?
I think considering how significant the challenges are or were, it's hard to see it as anything other than a massive success. So again, it wasn't just COVID, but COVID alone would have been very significant. It wasn't just the supply chain, but that alone would have been a reason to say, okay, we give retail a pass. Then the labor shortages on top of that. And yet you consider that many retailers actually saw visits up overall in November and December compared to those same months in a very successful holiday season in 2019. And when you also think about that push for this extended holiday season in October, many other retailers joined that mix of those who outperformed the standards set in 2019. So I think when you consider the strategic decisions that were made, the strategies deployed, and how they were able to offset a really significant mix of challenges, it's hard to see the last holiday season as anything other than a really major success.
Right. And Ethan, let's talk about 2022 for a moment. Q4 earnings, we kind of know what that might look like. I think guidance is going to be really interesting from retailers because with the COVID variant at the end of December and into January, shortening hours that stores were open, limited staff because people were getting infected with Omicron, what that might look like for Q1. But overall for 2022, will retailers be challenged in other respects because hopefully when we're on the other side of this year, perhaps spending might shift to experiences and travel. How do you think retailers could fare in this environment?
So I think there's a few things that are all happening at once. So one, you're right. There were elements that were working in retail's favor in the last 2 years that are going to go away. With that said, there are other elements that are going to come back. So travel out of the United States is going to also mean travel into the United States. And that's going to give a significant boost to many retail segments. But also, I think there is an increased recognition of the important role that retail plays and how important all elements of the retail spectrum are to satisfying a customer. And by that, I mean, what role does the store play? What role does online play? And how can those be utilized together to provide the optimal experience? And that evolving focus and sophistication is going to be a good thing for retail because it enables them to do things they hadn't been able to do in the past, such as succeed in really difficult environments. And, ending with where we started, when you think about what we learned in the holiday season and this ability to message around those challenges and find this way to create that win-win, that upgraded strategy that was deployed, that's going to be utilized throughout the calendar year to deal with other challenges. So I think there is tremendous reason for optimism in the wider retail segment. Obviously, there are those that will do better and those that will struggle more. But I would say that when you're looking at the wider space, it's going to be a really strong year for retail.
All right, Ethan, we appreciate the insight as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.